Before we go any further, if you value serious, well-researched wartime survival history like this, subscribe to Wartime Survival YT and leave a comment sharing what era or tactic you want covered next. This channel grows through historians and survivalists who care about substance, not noise. During the Second World War, civilians were not passive spectators waiting for armies to decide their fate. Across Europe and parts of Asia, ordinary households were expected to harden themselves against sabotage teams, looters, paratroopers, and night infiltrators. Out of that environment came a deceptively simple home defense method that has largely disappeared from modern discussion, yet remains brutally effective today. The use of improvised ground denial using caltrops and silent anti-intruder obstacles layered with early warning systems. It is not glamorous, it is not cinematic, and that is exactly why it worked then and still works now. What made this defense so powerful was not technology, but logic rooted in human movement and fear. Soldiers and intruders alike rely on speed, silence, and predictable pathways. WWII civil defense manuals understood this deeply and taught civilians how to turn homes, stairwells, courtyards, and corridors into hostile terrain without firearms or explosives. Why wartime civilians turned to silent ground denial inside and around their homes. By 1940, many occupied regions faced strict weapons restrictions. Civilians could not legally own firearms, and even knives or radios were sometimes regulated. Yet resistance doctrine still required early warning, delay, and injury without engagement. Caltrops, sharpened metal spikes, designed to always land with one point upward, became a favoured solution because they required no skill, no maintenance, and no sound. German, British, and Soviet manuals all reference variations of ground obstacles for use in defensive positions, but what is often overlooked is their domestic application. Civilians scattered caltrops beneath windows, along dark hallways at the base of staircases, and in garden approaches where an intruder would move quickly and quietly. Boots and bare feet alike were vulnerable, and even a minor puncture could immobilize an intruder through pain, infection risk, or panic. Today, the same principle applies. Modern intruders rely on speed, darkness, and familiarity with typical home layouts. When that expectation is violated, mistakes happen. How World War II-era caltrops and obstacles were actually constructed at home. Contrary to popular belief, civilians were not forging medieval weapons in basements. Most caltrops were made from bent nails, scrap wire, or cut fencing twisted into tetrahedral shapes. Some used sharpened roofing nails, welded or tied together. Others embedded spikes into wooden boards, placed loosely on floors so they shifted underfoot. The key detail from wartime guides was placement, not quantity. Obstacles were placed only where defenders themselves would never walk at night. This required strict household discipline and mental mapping. Families memorized safe paths and removed obstacles during the day. At night, or during air raids, the defences went back into place. Applied today, this translates into controlling access points rather than saturating space. A practical example would be denying access beneath ground-level windows or along narrow side passages while leaving clear, memorized routes for household members. The goal is not injury alone, but forced hesitation, noise, and loss of balance. Why this method still stops intruders in the modern era. Modern footwear has not solved the problem of sharp force from below. Sneakers, tactical boots, and even work boots are designed for flexibility and comfort, not puncture resistance. A sudden foot injury causes an immediate physiological response that overrides training. Intruders retreat, shout, or fall. Each outcome buys time. More importantly, ground denial breaks the psychological script intruders rely on. They expect alarms, cameras, and locks. They do not expect pain before contact. WWII civil defense planners understood that fear spreads faster than sound. One injured infiltrator often caused others to abandon the attempt entirely. From a survivalist perspective, this remains one of the few defences that functions without electricity, visibility, or reaction time. How civilians layered obstacles with early warning during WWIIs. Caltrops were rarely used alone. They were paired with trip lines attached to hanging metal, glass fragments, or empty cans. The sound did not need to be loud, only unmistakable in a silent night. Some households used floorboards deliberately loosened to creak under weight. Others sprinkled ash or sand to reveal footprints by morning. A modern application could involve combining silent obstacles with low-tech noise alerts placed where pets or wind cannot trigger them. The historical lesson is integration. One method delays, another alerts, and another funnels movement into predictable zones. Now, let's talk about the legal and ethical realities of applying this knowledge today. Back in the Second World War, civilians operated under an existential threat. Things were, well, very different. In today's context, legality really does matter. Any modern application must, carefully consider local laws regarding booby traps and injury liability. The true historical value here is in understanding deterrence, delay, and early warning, rather than causing indiscriminate harm. Practical adaptation, then, means focusing on removable, visible-at-day obstacles and non-lethal deterrence. Honestly, the mindset matters more than the exact tool. The Second World War taught civilians to think in layers, to control movement, and quite cleverly, to exploit darkness rather than fear it. So, what does this forgotten defence really teach us about survival thinking? Well, the true lesson isn't about caltrops themselves, but about asymmetry. Home defence during the Second World War succeeded when civilians accepted that they could not overpower intruders, but they could certainly outthink them. They designed environments that punished speed and rewarded patience and familiarity. For historians, this fills a rather important gap between battlefield tactics and civilian life. And, for survivalists, it reinforces that the most durable defences are simple, silent, and human-focused, rather than dependent on technology. If this deep dive added something new to your understanding of wartime survival, do subscribe to Wartime Survival YT, share this with someone who takes history seriously, and, well, comment below with the forgotten tactics you'd like uncovered next.